The Separatist military was colossal and ruled by some of the most despicable warlords in the galaxy. However, the true power in the CIS laid with the Parliament, Council and Dooku. But what would have happened if the military tried to seize power for itself? Now, we've talked before about a similar situation where military high command launches a coup against the Republic and takes power, but how would this work for the Separatists? Well, we're going to be saying that about a year into the war, as it begins to escalate due to the Republic investing more resources, a group of Separatist commanders come together. Grievous, Trench, possibly Kalani and other super tactical droids, and any others really. Now, we do know that the super tactical droids were actually capable of disobeying orders, so it's very possible that Kalani and the others could come to the conclusion that a seizing of power by the military was the only way to win the war. You see, the Separatist commanders were actually pretty good at their jobs. Many were decorated war veterans. However, from their perspectives, they would have likely been held back by much of the political goings-on. Of course, Sidious was behind much of this. However, there's also the Separatist Council and the Parliament. Most of the Separatist commanders had one objective, and that was the destruction of the Republic. To many of them, it was personal, for example Grievous and Trench. The problem was, this wasn't in line with what the other Separatists wanted. Dooku was doing whatever Sidious ordered, the Parliament was trying to reach peace and secure independence, and the Council was trying to make money. And all these different objectives put them at odds with the military. Ryloth, for example. The Separatists were going to destroy the capital and leave the world. However, due to Wat Tambor's urge to loot everything of worth, this didn't happen and the Republic got a pretty significant victory. So the military leaders are going to come together and they decide that they're sick of playing these games and they're going to take power for themselves and win the war and destroy the Republic. So first things first, the biggest thing that they need to deal with is how they're going to take control of the droid army in this rebellion. After all, this army technically served the Council, so we're going to be saying that that's their first step. Now, we know that the Council had a way to completely shut down the droid army, and it's also very likely and convenient for this theory that they had some sort of way of giving someone else power over it. For this reason, we're going to say that the commanders get the entire Council to one place, likely calling an emergency meeting to discuss the war effort. From here, Grievous, being the best combatant, butchers them, as Anakin did on Mustafar, in our own timeline. From here, he uses their master command to give himself and the other commanders in the coup complete control over all units, while simultaneously locking others such as Dooku out. Now again, how this would actually happen is difficult to say, but for the fun of the theory, we're going to say that it does work. From here, he orders all units to turn on Dooku. He's likely on his castle in Sereno. Now, although the droids probably won't be successful, an orbital bombardment would probably do the trick. So the military commanders now have total control over the military, and the Council is dead, as is Dooku. However, they haven't secured power yet. They need to secure vital resources, for example factories that produce further droids, or shipyards. These all need to be seized. So droids stationed at these factories would likely be ordered to arrest or kill all organics there. Meanwhile, the Council's vast amount of assets, even those not tied to the war, for example all those belonging to Nute Gunray's Trade Federation, will also be seized, as they're going to supply a lot of capital for the war effort. From here, the new leaders will also need to secure the Parliament. They're probably going to want to keep them alive to keep up the illusion of a legitimate political force. Also, killing them would anger many members of the Confederacy, and cause a full-on rebellion within the CIS. However, needless to say, there will still be outcry. I mean, no one really likes military coups. But the Parliament, now been held hostage, would be useful to keep people and their worlds and systems relatively calm. So the military has now taken over the entirety of the Confederacy. So from here, the war is going to step up. All of the Separatists' resources would now be put behind the war effort. The commanders will likely order all of the Council's resources, not essential to the war effort, to be liquidated, providing more funds, for example trade fleets. This means that the Separatists' military would grow exponentially, many more droids, more ships, and far more advanced ones as well. We know many commanders hated B1s because they were cheap and relatively stupid, so we'd see a surge of commandos and other better units enter the war. And many more ships such as the Malevolence would be created, as opposed to being forced to use converted shipping fleets. Essentially, the war would no longer be dictated by how much the council were willing to spend. Now, this is going to put a great deal of pressure on the Republic, who will struggle to meet the endless resources of the Separatists, as the Republic's ability to increase production relies on the bureaucracy of the Senate, unlike the CIS, which at this point is firmly going to be an autocracy. Not only this, but the Separatists' attacks would be far more brutal. It wouldn't be invading a world, installing puppet governments and reaping resources to tycoons. It would be invading worlds, slaughtering the inhabitants and destroying anything that the Republic could use, before moving on to the next world. Now, realistically, I believe that the Republic would struggle to win this war. Their only real hope is that the overzealous nature of the commanders is their downfall. You see, in our timeline, the CIS's military was controlled by business tycoons. These guys may have been poor military commanders and cowardly, but they were geniuses in their field. And now this colossal army being created by the Separatist commanders that is far larger than the one we see in our timeline is just not going to be financially viable. Remember, armies are expensive. And all of this means that eventually the Confederacy is going to suffer an economic collapse. And realistically, these commanders are going to have no idea how to fix it. So if the Republic can last long enough for the Separatists' colossal army to metaphorically bite them in the ass, then they could potentially win. An economic collapse would ruin their war effort, their droids would stop production, and their ships would fall into disrepair without fuel or munitions. Also, the Separatists would begin revolting against their leaders. Regardless of all this, the war that we would be faced with would be far more brutal and bloody than any that we saw in our own timeline. But what do you guys think? Could the Separatist military take over and win? And if so, what do you think would happen? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, please remember to like, share and sub if you did enjoy, as it's really appreciated and it helps the channel grow. Also, don't forget to follow me on Twitter @TheLawGuy and tick the bell for regular updates. Thanks again for watching, I do hope that you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.